This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Lila Marie. Even though she was so tiny, she had everything. She had her 10 fingers, her 10 toes, her little nose, and I really think that she looked like her little brother.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Welcome to Still a Part of Us. I'm just really so excited to talk to Joy today. She reached out to us and really wanted to make sure that her daughter Lila was out in the world and everybody knew about her. So Joy, thank you again for coming on and being willing to talk to us about your little girl.
Well, thank you. And your podcast has really helped my healing.
We're so glad. We're so glad when we hear that. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Joy, where you guys are located, what your family looks like, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, right now I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm here with my husband and my two little boys, Niall and Ellis, and kind of the same place as we were when Lila was born.
Yeah. And as a kind of point of reference, how long ago was Lila born based off of the time of this recording?
Yeah, Lila was born on January 28th, 2024. So it's been about a year and 7 months since that day. Yeah.
And that is still pretty, I think that's still really new. Like that's very, I don't think they're like, oh, it's been past a year. No. It's still pretty new and still pretty hard. So, and can you tell us a little bit about your family? What do they like to do? What do you guys like to do as a family?
Well, we like to travel, and then every weekend we try to find something going on in the neighborhood or going on in the city to try to get out, get the kids out, get the energy out, and just spend time with the family.
Yeah. You guys seem to have a lot of fun together because when I was originally, we were going back and forth about times. She's like, well, the Kentucky Derby's happening. So, I mean, like we're kind of busy. And I was like, okay, I get that. Like that's, and you're right there. So
yes, for sure.
You guys are having fun. Okay. Well then you have two little boys, and it sounds like you obviously family that was kind of a priority to you guys. So tell me about Lila. Was that something planned or was that a little bit of a surprise?
She was a little bit of a surprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So early on, 2014-ish, I had a miscarriage, and that was not, we weren't really trying or anything. It was just the timing was not great. So, and then when we were ready, we were having a little bit of trouble. And it took us to have medication to have Niall and to Ellis.
Okay. So both of them.
Yeah. And then we were successful. They each took about a year to conceive. And then with Lila, we just weren't preventing because it took us so long with the other ones that we just thought we didn't know if we were done. We didn't. And then I have every single pregnancy, all 4 of my pregnancies that I've had, I will have a specific nausea that happens. And I know I'm pregnant. I don't really even have to take a pregnancy test anymore. And so as soon as I feel that, I'm like, I was like, I'm going to take a pregnancy test, but I kind of had a feeling that this was going to be positive.
Okay. That is so interesting. You're like, I just know my body is telling me.
Yeah. And it's very distinct with pregnancies. And with my oldest one, I had that for all 30 weeks. With Ellis, I had it about 20 weeks, and nausea and vomiting was kind of part of my pregnancy stories.
Oh, that's no fun. And that's a long time. Like that is a long time to have nausea and vomiting.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Well, you talk about the pregnancy unicorns. I definitely was not one of those.
No, seriously. Yeah. Some people, I'm like, I don't know how you did it. And you're like glowing and you're like, I hate you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you got pregnant. You knew you were pregnant. You took the test just in case. Did you tell your husband? Was he there that morning when you were taking the test?
I did not tell him. I took the test. It was positive, and then I kind of had him come into the bathroom. And because we weren't trying, it was like, I guess we're doing this again. You know, it was like, I mean, we were excited, but it was just a different feeling of that. So,
Yeah. When it's a little bit of surprise, you're like, okay. Wrap your brain around that a little bit. So, and how old would your kids have been at that time?
The oldest one was 4, and the youngest one was just at a year.
At a year, okay.
Yeah. So Ellis turned a year in December, and then Niall turned 4. Lila was born on the 28th, and he's born on February 4th. That was a lot.
Yes.
To have to, we had a whole party planned and all these things when this was all going on. And it was like, they're a week apart. And so I was like, it's his birthday, we're doing it, but.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're definitely going to get into that a little bit more too, because that is, but just having perspective of like, you had a 4-year-old, you had a 1-year-old, and then you have this surprise pregnancy-ish, right?
Yeah.
So sort of excited, also sort of like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah.
And you're very sick as well.
Yes.
Did you go into the doctors pretty quickly after, was it like the usual 8-9 weeks or so?
I think it was about 9 or 10 weeks. And we went in and we did have the ultrasound and we saw her. Yeah. And they said that she was fine. We didn't know she was a girl.
Right.
Yet. And then I remember the ultrasound person putting like, here I am. Like I have the ultrasound thing that says, here I am. And my husband with my other 2, the first one, he was like, they were like, let's see if there's any friends. And he was like, wait, what? There's an option that there could be 2? And they were like, no, we just have to check it. So this time he was the one to ask, like, is there 2? Because we're already surprised about 1.
Right, exactly.
So we don't want, I mean, we would have dealt with that or whatever, but we just needed to know very quickly on in the appointment if there was 2. But there was only 1. And she was measuring right, and we had a heartbeat, and they didn't have to do transvaginal. So she was old enough to be able to do the abdominal ultrasound. So she was doing good at that time.
Okay. That's so great and so exciting. Okay. Did you end up telling your kids? I mean, maybe your oldest would be the one that sort of understood, but the 1-year probably is like, just happy to be here.
I did tell Niall. Niall will be a part of this story because he's been probably the biggest support of my life since this. He just talks about her, loves her, all the things. So I did talk to him about it. He was super excited, and from day 1 said it was a girl. We didn't find out at all with any of the kids. So we were doing that again with Lila, and we did not find out. So he was, no, I'm having a sister.
Whoa.
And knew that.
That is cool that he was, kind of, he's like, it's my baby sister. How cute is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you guys are, so he's excited about that. You're feeling nauseous. Now, when you have nausea and vomiting, is it pretty bad so much that you may need to go into the hospital for fluids and such? Because there are some women that are very, very sick that way.
Unfortunately, that is not the case.
Oh, okay,
it's
good.
just like this constant, like if I
just,
brush my teeth, is something going to happen?
Oh.
If I eat or something, but not to the point that I needed any infusions or anything like that. So manageable, but inconvenience, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. And then tell me, since you guys don't choose, since you don't find out, do you choose names? Do you have a running list or anything for both boy-girl names?
What I can say about pregnancy, I think that might be even harder than the nausea, is trying to figure out names.
It is.
Niall, we knew pretty quickly. I just said that. We still didn't really have a girl's name when we went in to have Niall. With Ellis, both the boy and the girl name, we were kind of on the fence on. And I remember holding Ellis and being like, Ellis? Is that what we're doing?
How's that feel?
And so that has always been a challenge for us. And so we didn't really have a name, especially because she was so early, that I hadn't even really thought about too much yet. And so, we didn't really have a name or anything picked out.
Yeah. It's always so fun when you're like, And I know that sometimes they do have the genetic testing kind of early on. I don't know if you opted to do anything of that nature.
Yes, we did do that, and it was all clear as it could be.
Right.
What was just confusing is they called and was like, "Do you want to know the gender?" And I was like, "I told you I wasn't going to do the gender." So now it was like, should I do it? And then I was by myself in the car, and I was like, "No, I can't." I told my husband I wouldn't. So we did not, but it was different because I was like, well, they know.
Yeah. The information is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tricky. I would be like,
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And with everything happening, I kind of wish I would have found out, but all the regrets and things that go through your mind with all this.
I know the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and it's kind of, that's hard. So she is at least on the initial genetic screening. It looked good. She looked good. And you're still feeling not so great, but are you starting to see the doctor once a month? Isn't that
it was
right?
once a month. Yeah. I had 2 other appointments before we found out. And they were fine. We actually, on January 12th, I went in and had a regular doctor's appointment, and they found her heartbeat right away, and I was measuring right. And that next week, about a week and a half after that, I was supposed to have my anatomy screen.
Okay.
But from that time to the anatomy screen, when my appointment it was not. Yeah. Things happened.
Okay. So. So why don't we just start kind of from that point where you went in for that one appointment, everything looks good. She was looking pretty clear. So then tell us how things progressed in those coming couple of weeks.
Yeah. So on January 27th, so the day before she was born, around lunchtime, I kind of went to the bathroom and there was some blood. And I honestly didn't get too worried because I had blood with other pregnancies. But I called my OB and she said, why don't you come on in just to make sure things are okay. So, of course, 2 kids, that means figuring out all the things.
Yeah.
And then it's really, like I said, my almost 4-year-old at the time is like, why do you have to go to the doctor? And I'm like, you don't have the answers or anything. So he was very confused, but my mother-in-law came over, took the kids, and then we headed to the hospital.
So you and your husband did go to the hospital together. Okay.
Yeah. And then we went up to, the labor and delivery. We got in the triage room, and then they were just kind of taking the intake of all the things. And then they came in with the Doppler. And I'm a nurse, so nursing students are something that just, I was one and stuff. So there was a nursing student there. And they did ask for permission. They were like, can she help with the Doppler or whatever? And I was like, sure. looking back, that was not the right choice in my opinion, just because of whatever happened. She's trying to look for the heartbeat and she can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
So then they were trying to teach her where to look, and they kept finding my heartbeat, but couldn't find Lila's heartbeat. And it was never a problem. Like any other, like the 3 other appointments, it was fine.
So fast. Yeah.
And what's weird about this, since I had the miscarriage, the first pregnancy way before my others, I was so nervous to tell anybody about my pregnancy. I always had in my mind, like, something's going to happen. My mom had it, my grandmother had them, like all of this. I knew the history. And I guess because I had 2 successful pregnancies, somehow that worry kind of went off my plate. And it was like a slap in the face when they started to not being able to find the heartbeat. And then it all came back to me. I was like, okay, like I kind of knew before they even had anything, because I just like, I don't know. That was just something that I always thought could have happened with me just from other things. And so then the actual nurse started to try to find the heartbeat with the Doppler, and she was unsuccessful. And then that's when they said, like, we need to get the ultrasound in and, you know, go over this, but we're not finding the heartbeat right now. And then the ultrasound tech did come in, and it was a really long time from the time that they left to the time that the ultrasound tech came in, and you could hear everybody else's heartbeats all over the room, other rooms, and us just like sitting there in the unknown. And just with my background, I was like, this is going to get really bad. And so the ultrasound tech came in and turned off the sound and turned the screen away from me, and then really never said anything. Just kept putting the probe on my stomach and moving and saying she was taking measurements, but like she never really said like there's not a heartbeat or anything like that. Then she said and this took, I mean, I don't know how long it was, but it felt like forever. Yeah. And my husband is not clinical at all. None. Yeah. So like, he was just like, oh, well, is this normal or whatever? And I just kind of knew. And then they finally said, I have to go get the doctor. And so the doctor came in, looked at the ultrasound one more time and said, I can't find a heartbeat. Your baby is gone. And then I was just like, okay. And it was just like done. Like a couple weeks ago we had a heartbeat, and I told everybody, which is so abnormal for me, that I waited till 20 weeks after the anatomy scan with my first one. And I don't remember, like, I definitely didn't tell anybody at work until I was after my anatomy scan. And this time I just like allowed myself to like explore those feelings early, I guess. Yeah. And it just came crashing down. And yeah, that's kind of when we found out there was no heartbeat.
That is like the worst. And then just, you're right, like the buildup of the nursing student and the nurse and the ultrasound technician and then the doctor. Yeah. It's the worst. And having some clinical background, you kind of have a gut feeling about those kind of things, don't you? Just like something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did your husband say? How did he react when they finally actually came out and said it?
Yeah. He was very supportive for me. He didn't really understand what this meant because we had gone through a miscarriage before, and it was very, very early on, like 6 to 8 weeks, where we go in for the first scan and there's no sac or whatever. So very different than, having us almost at 19 weeks. So I had to like explain to him that this is going to look very different than what it did before, which was really, I just, did that myself. I passed those things and whatever. So he didn't have really kind of an idea of what that was. And I was like, there's going to be a baby. Yeah. Like, and so that was, trying to explain that to him in a way but also like to myself, like there's going to be a baby that I'm going to have to deliver and not know how to, navigate that.
Yeah. That is, yeah. You just don't, unless you work in L&D, and that is like, and that's something that you face often, but this is, yeah. And so what did the doctors talk to you about, like the different options? Because I'm assuming that was like the next step, is just like, what is going to happen next and what does that need to look like?
So they did a little bit more extensive. The doctor went to the ultrasound and went over it a little bit more in detail. And what they found was placenta previa is what they had said, which I had never been, that had never been anything earlier. And since that was happening, they were very worried about hemorrhaging if I would deliver naturally. And so they wanted me to, they gave me the, well, not really. They gave me the, like, we really want you to do this D&E, but there's only one physician that can do that in our city or something. And that we're going to go ahead and schedule that for the Monday. So this is a Saturday. And schedule that for a Monday so that we can keep you safe. And I was like, so that means, like, what do I do in the meantime?
Yeah.
Like from Saturday to Monday, like, do I stay here? Do I stay at the hospital? Do I go home? And then they gave me that option of going home.
Okay. Can I ask really fast?
Yeah.
So you're still bleeding. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily a concern. They were just kind of saying that that was part of maybe what had happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were not concerned at all about any additional issues if you did go home.
Not that I can remember. Okay. They really gave me the option of going home, and then me calling them on Monday to schedule this D&E, which that is awful to have to like do. When I look back, I'm like, that could have gone differently. There's another story with that whole thing, but so I chose to do that. I chose to go home and, be at my house with my boys, and then pretty much thought on Monday I would go in and figure out the plan.
Yeah.
But that was definitely not the case of what happened.
Yeah. Okay. So then I want to back up one thing just so that everybody kind of understands, because you mentioned placenta previa. So do you want to explain kind of what that is, since they probably talked a little bit about that with you?
Yeah. So they thought the placenta was closer to my cervix. And so if I would deliver naturally, that the placenta is so vascular, has so much blood flow to it, that if it would be delivered early or before the baby, then there is risk for hemorrhage. Yeah. And it was just, and I did not have my nurse cap on at all during any of this.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
But when I thought about that, I was like, why would they send me home? Like now I think about it, like, why would they send me home if hemorrhage was my... is the issue, is the concern. But again, I didn't really have that. I was just like, I just want to go home, and I don't know. It didn't sit well with me of like just waiting, but that was the option that they gave me.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so you had some bleeding, not enough to be of concern, I guess. And then they also... Were you feeling any sort of contractions or anything at this time? Still nothing?
No, not really.
Okay.
It was kind of the next day that now I look back and I'm like, yeah, that probably was a contraction.
But, really? Okay.
Yeah, but not at the time. And I don't know if I was blacked out or whatever during that whole thing. But when you talk about like the bleeding and then they're worried about hemorrhage, and I'm like, yeah, why did I go home?
So you guys went home. You had explained to your husband how this was going to look, how different it was going to look.
Mm-hmm.
And then you head home. And do you tell your kids at the time? Do you tell your family what is going to be happening?
I mean, my one is 1 year old. So but my almost 4 year old at the time, I did tell him that the baby wasn't going to come home with us. He, I don't know, his mind is like, okay, like I knew that's fine. Like he was fine with that. He was like, oh yeah, it's like our mother-in-law's cat had passed.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, yep, that's exactly the same. And, like we can think about them or whatever, and went straight to like that.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I mean, that was just pretty quiet and, for the rest of the night, really. I have a group friends from like high school, and I had text my group, and just kind of said, hey, I can't really talk right now because I don't think I'm going to make it through a conversation. But we lost our baby today, and we're going to be going in on Monday to do the D&E. And my friend, who she's like such a part of Lila's story, just was like, I'm coming. And she lives in St. Louis and has 5 children. So I don't know how she did it. And she was here that night. And she's also a nurse. And so like all of the stuff that, my husband, he doesn't really even like medical stuff, let alone know anything about it. Yeah. She came and was a godsend because when we get into the story, you'll see where she will, if she wasn't here, my story would look very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is so kind of her to come down.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that you should do sometimes. Sometimes you just need to figure it out and get to your friend, because that makes a huge difference. So, okay, so you guys are at home just hanging out, and the next day you think you had a contraction, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, my friend got here that night. We started talking, we went to bed pretty early. And then in the morning we got up early because the kids get up early. Yeah. And I was just sitting at the breakfast bar that we have. And my friend, of course, is like doing the dishes, doing all this stuff. And I was like, I feel like cramping. And then I felt like a balloon pop. And I just was like, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I am. I don't know. So I went into the bathroom, and and with my other 2 children, my water never broke.
Okay.
So I never had that sensation or anything. And it being such early on in the pregnancy, it wasn't like a gush. It felt like a water balloon popping. Yeah. I can't explain it in any other way. And when I went to the bathroom, there was fluid.
Okay.
And so then I called my OB and said, like, this is happening. Like, what should I do? And she was like, well, are your contractions, like, how far along are your contractions? And I was like, well, again, I keep referencing my other pregnancies, but I did both of those naturally.
Okay.
And so, one took like a little over 12 hours and one took 6 hours, and it was all natural. And so when I think about it, I'm like, if those bigger babies took 6 hours, like, I don't know why I never thought like this would go this quickly. But I was like, I don't feel like I'm having contractions. I was like, I have a little bit of cramping, but I never like timed them or anything like that, because I felt like with my other ones, like I was in intense labor. Like I knew what labor felt like. This is not what it felt like. Yeah. So I was like, I don't think I'm in like active labor or anything like that. And she was like, okay, well, why don't you come in when you are more like regular with contractions? Right. And so I was like, okay. So I got off the phone. I would say like 20 to 25 minutes later, I'm on the couch talking with my husband and my friend. And I just felt like the urge to go to the restroom. Mm-hmm. And so I went in there and sat down, and her legs came out. And so I like screamed. Yeah. For anybody. Luckily, it was my friend that came in. And in that moment, I mean, my friend was calling 911. I was like trying to get to the floor. Lila's still like halfway out. And then like, I think it was just like I breathed and she came all the way out on the bathroom floor. And that's like one of my biggest regrets, is because she was laying there on the bathroom floor for so long. Because I wasn't moving, because I was like nervous about if I'm bleeding or not. But she was just like all alone on the bathroom floor. And I don't know, my friend had to like tie a shoestring around the umbilical cord. And luckily, like, she was here, because if not, my boys would have been involved with this. My husband would have been involved with this. But like, my friend was there with me in the bathroom while my husband had the kids downstairs. So like, they would have looked very different.
Yes.
She knew what to say on the phone with the paramedics and everything. So we're sitting there, and once the EMS arrived and stuff, and we have a small bathroom, and so they're trying to figure out how to get me off the ground after we had kind of talked about like the risks of what was going on. I'm like, they were talking for so long, and like they got in the bathtub, because it's like it's like trying to figure out how to pick me up, and I finally just said, I'm gonna get up. Like, she's laying there. I need to get up and get her and get like we can't just sit here anymore.
Yes.
And so I just kind of like the gurney was there, and I just was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna start bleeding, I'm gonna start bleeding. Like, I don't know, I just need to get on there. There was no other option, I felt like. So I did get up on the gurney, and they put her like in this little like bin, and kind of got me out of the house and into the ambulance. And that is kind of her birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got to look at her, though, I'm assuming, when you were just waiting.
It was funny, because my friend and I were like, later on, was like, she was like, I wanted to tell you I didn't see a penis. Because we didn't know it was a boy or a girl. And that's kind of what I saw, but I was like, I couldn't, I wasn't moving myself. But I could see her, and she was like a whole human. Like, she had fingers and toes and legs and everything. And so, yeah, that's kind of her birth.
So they got you. So you guys are all going to the hospital now. I'm assuming that you're heading to the hospital. And did they say anything about any sort of bleeding? How are things just as are you being transported? And how long is it taking you to actually get to the hospital, wherever they're taking you?
It is only probably like 10 minutes away from here.
Okay. When
we got in there, they weren't really saying much to me. They were very young EMS people. And I think that this is maybe not something that they are very comfortable with, or maybe even experienced a lot of this. So I don't know if they just were like focused on putting the, IVs in me and taking my blood pressure and doing all those kinds of things, because I was not informed about, am I okay? Or, those kinds of things. For myself, like when I did get up, I did not see a large amount of blood.
Okay.
So like in my head, I was still okay. But obviously I don't know as much about, labor and delivery. I'm not a labor and delivery nurse. So, but in my head, I was like, okay, well,
we might be okay.
My blood pressure is fine. I saw my blood pressure. I saw my heart rate and all those kinds of things. So I was like, okay, I think we're doing okay. But then when we were getting out of my neighborhood, they did lights and sirens, and then they made the code that it's like an emergency.
Oh, okay.
And then I could see my husband behind the ambulance in the car, and like right before we left the house, and then the lights and sirens went off, and I was like, I don't think that's a good sight for him.
No. Yeah.
To like then have lights and sirens. Come to find, I don't think we needed the lights and sirens. I think that it was an uncomfortable situation, and the EMS crew may just want to get it as quickly as possible out of their hands.
Yeah, just in case something. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how trained they were on determining hemorrhage in a pregnancy like this or whatnot. So, but then I didn't see my husband anymore from the back of the ambulance. And so we got there to the emergency department, and thank goodness, because I work in the emergency department at a kind of a sister hospital.
Okay.
But they took me straight to L&D, which I thought we were going to be going to the emergency department, and I was like, please no. But they brought me into like the L&D. They got me into a room that was the same room I was in the whole time I was there. And then pretty much, somebody like the OB that was not my OB, but it was in their partner. Okay. Yeah. Came in and was like, well, that went quicker than I thought. Cause I guess I was on the phone with her, and she was, didn't think that was going to happen like that.
Yeah.
And so, she was like, okay, now I need to take, an exam of you or whatnot. And the placenta was, coming out in pieces and stuff.
Oh, no.
And, that was not very, comfortable to experience her. And, like, Lila is still in that little like plastic tub that they put her in.
Yeah.
And then finally one of the nurses came in and was like, do you want to hold her? And I was like, I do want to hold her. And I was just grateful that they thought of that they like, being that early, I don't know if that's why nobody made that option. And for me in that, stress, I didn't even ask.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you held her tiny little body.
I did. And like, that's what I just remember. Every time I think of her, I'm just astonished at like how much like detail she has at that young of a gestation. Her little nose, I can remember it. Her little hands, I would put like my hand underneath hers, and it felt to me that she was like, it was like curling over my little finger. And yeah. So, that was kind of her birth story, I guess.
Yeah. Did your husband got there, shortly after, and maybe, tell me how that worked.
Well, luckily, like I said, my friend was here, so she stayed with the boys at the house while we were going with the ambulance. And then my husband, like, I don't know how long it was, but it was when he got into the room, I could tell on his face that it was a long time. Because like from the time that the ambulance, he didn't see me from the ambulance all the way to the time that, he got up to the room and stuff. And I actually had to ask, like, is he here? And it was at least after the exam, after the placenta thing, after me holding her, all this thing. And I was like, is my husband here? Like, can he come in? And they were like, oh, like, and so he was in the poor waiting room.
The entire time. Oh.
And the last time he knew of anything, I was in the ambulance going with lights and sirens.
Oh,
and so like, terrible. I think about like his trauma and story of like, and that's what I think that with our grieving is that with me being in the bathroom, and after Lila was born, my friend was like praying really loudly and like, he thought something had happened to me.
Yeah.
And he wanted to keep the boys downstairs so that they didn't see any of it. So he was kind of out of the loop of exactly what was going on with me.
Yes.
And so we've talked about that of like his first grief was me.
Yeah.
Like that he thought something happened to me.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about like the risk of hemorrhage and stuff like that, and you know, lights and sirens and bleeding and all that. Now I'm being kept in the waiting room and those kinds of things. So I think about that now.
Your poor husband. Holy cow.
That he's grieving a different way because he, not only Lila, but like at points me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. Like yeah.
But he finally did come in to the room, and he chose not to hold her or see her. Again, the medical realm for him is very challenging and difficult for him. And so he chose not to hold her and was really kind of comforting me during that time.
Yeah. How big was Lila? Like how long was she? How did they end her weight and everything?
Yeah, she was only 3 ounces.
3 ounces.
And she was 7 inches long.
Oh, okay.
It was, you could just fit her right like in your hand, and yeah, it was just so surreal. Like it didn't feel real at all.
Yeah. So you were looking okay finally after they got all the pieces of the placenta out. Were you feeling okay though? Like physically?
Physically I was.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember any like amount of soreness or anything like that. With my recovery, it was one of the longest, like I bled for a lot longer than I ever did with any of my other two. And I don't know if that had to do with like the placenta and all of that kind of stuff, but it was a different recovery for sure. But yeah.
Oh, add that on top of it, right?
Yeah.
So you had her with you, and I guess when did you decide on her name?
I remember like my husband had left to come back with the boys, and my friend came up there. But when that was going on, I like text my husband and I said, I'm going to name her. And I spelled the name Lila, which we had said Lila, Lilla is what should have been spelled.
Oh.
And my friend was like, did you name her before she came up to the hospital? And I like sent her Lila. And nobody knows really but one person. So if they listen to this, then this will be the first time that they know. But she came up and she had like a blanket and like these stencils and like all this stuff that like she laid out, and it just said like Lila, the date of birth, and like we took pictures.
Oh my gosh.
And all this stuff. And she was like, I love the name Lila. And I was like, I love the name Lila too. And I was like, and then my husband, when he came back, was like, is it Lila? Is it Lila? And I was like, it's Lila, because it has for me, it had a better, like softer ring. It just fit her better, I felt like.
Yeah.
But I guess in my like crazy mind, that the mistake happened, and that's kind of how she got her name, and it's the right name.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful name. It's and Lila Marie, it has a nice like lilt to it too.
Yeah, Marie is for my mom. That's her middle name. Yeah, and so each of the kids have some kind of family middle name, and so I kind of just put that together very quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool that your friend brought up all that stuff too, so you could take pictures.
Yeah. Well, she, when she was on her way here, she had another friend that had, I think, lost twins in the early 20-week thing, and called her and just said, this is happening. Do you have any advice of like what I should do? And she said, take all the pictures, even if she doesn't want them. And I'm so grateful for that like, she didn't give me an option, because I might have said no. And I remember the night before she said, I'm taking pictures, and if you don't ever want them, then that's fine. But if you do, they're here, and I don't know even that friend of hers. So I'm so grateful that, it's that community that we're talking about right here that just understand what is needed. So yeah, she brought up like a little blanket, and like we have pictures of like all of the things, and it was just really nice that she remembered.
Yeah. And that she made that effort to call another friend to ask, because you just don't think you're going to find yourself in this situation. So
yeah. And when you're in the situation, you don't know what you want or what you need.
Yeah.
At all.
It blindsides you, and it is horrible, and you're dealing with grief, and there's so many layers there. So seriously, good on your friend.
Yeah, I know. She was a miracle.
You're with Lila, you're taking pictures. Are there any other things that they are able to do? She's just so tiny. So I'm just wondering if there were any things that the L&D offered to do or were able to do so that you would have some things to remember her by.
Yeah, they actually did little footprint, her little thing.
You guys, if you were just listening to this on the podcast, she's showing these little tiny they're the cutest little bitty thing. I can't believe they were able to do that so well.
They were able to do that. I got footprints. They did do photos. Now it wasn't the person for like lay me down to sleep wasn't there, but they had like the nurses do photos.
Right.
One of the things that I wish I would have done, I have like a photographer person that does a lot of my photos for all of my family. And I just wish I would have called her. But it's just one of those things that you don't know what
you don't think about
know.
it.
Yeah.
You don't.
'Cause I think that the photos that I have, I'm grateful that I have, but for being so early in gestation that she's not formed, her head is not formed and stuff. And I think that we could have done a little bit better of just seeing her face and
like more posing so you can,
because Niall wants to see her. And I struggle with him seeing that at such a young age. He's seen her hands and he's seen her feet pictures, but her face, and especially it's her head not formed, that I'm just worried to do that. And one of the things when I left the hospital, they gave me, you go home with not a baby, you go home with a box. They never opened that box for me. When I got home is when I finally opened that box. And in that box was a hat.
Oh.
That could have fit on Isla's head, and a onesie that was like this big.
Tiny. Oh, so she would have fit into it.
I think she would have fit. And I'm just like, I didn't know about it before. And so, it was just one of those things when I saw it, I just started crying. Like, it's just one more thing that is not fair.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Oh, when you're like, oh, if I had known, if somebody would have said something to me, I would have done something about it.
Yeah.
So they usually send a social worker in to start talking about what you'll want to do with her remains. So did they tell me about that? Because I don't know what that looks like. For a lot of hospitals have it looks really different for different hospitals, and then also different policies for how old or young the baby was, it seems like. So
yeah. And that's one of the parts I struggle with.
Yeah.
Because it's not a stillborn until it's 20 weeks. It's a miscarriage. And for me, my miscarriage and my baby is very different.
Very different, yeah.
So I felt like when I was in the hospital that they were just like leaving me be. Now I could not hear any, they had me in an area that I couldn't hear anything. So that was good. But like, they did not come in very often. They did not
check on
me. I don't know what the policy, like how often you're supposed to do that or not, but it was really, I felt like shift change is when they would come in. And then there was, I don't think it was a social worker. I think it was my nurse that came in with like a folder and was like, because of her age or gestational age, you can decide on what you do. Okay. And there was like 3 options. There was like nothing. You just give her to me and that's it. And the other one was like, they have like their own crematory kind of ash area that they can do at the hospital, or you can go to, you know, a funeral home and do all of that. And for me, it was like, well, I have to do the last one. Like, can't, like for me, she is a human. Those 2 other options for me were like, didn't feel like she was anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then comes that is like all the other decisions and all the other decisions that you never think you're going to have to make. So like the funeral home and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And so, you know, luckily I like text another friend and was like, this is random, but like, what funeral home have you ever used? You know, I'm not originally from here.
Yeah.
So I don't know those things. She gave me a very good one, and that was a great experience in the realm of funeral homes, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and then the nurse did go over like an autopsy or, you know, those kinds of things. When Lila did come out, we could tell like on her it was on her left side of her neck. There was just extra tissue or extra stuff. And I didn't know if that was, you know, like she's that early. Is that really what it was is that what it's, you know, it's just not all the way developed or whatever. But to come to find out, they did tell us during the ultrasound and then after her birth that there was hydrops.
Oh,
yeah. And so of course, then I'm like, what does that mean or whatever?
Yeah.
And so that I did do an autopsy just to try to get some answers.
Yeah.
It was a hard decision of,
yes,
do I do that or not? Me being in the medical field, I think led me down that road of, you know, if and when we ever do want another child, if this is an issue or were we just lucky with the other 2 and, you know, whatever. So it just kept like playing in my head. And I felt like for me, I needed to make that decision.
Okay. Yeah. So then so you opted for the autopsy and then after that you were going to have her transported over to the funeral home. And then did you decide on cremation or burial or how was that going to work? Because I don't even know, like on such a small baby doing an autopsy, would that be like, I feel like they're so small and so fragile. That would be really difficult and they've got to be really careful. And
so I guess I didn't have to make that decision at the hospital, at least. Like I said, there wasn't somebody like navigating me through this. I guess the things that I had to make a decision on, I did. And then the other ones kind of fell into place later on. Okay. And so they were just like, okay, they'll do the autopsy and then the funeral home will come and pick her up. So I got to stay with her for almost about 24 hours.
You did.
Like I didn't sleep, but she like was next to me, which I'm a pediatric nurse, so you never do, you know, safe sleep or whatever. But this is like, obviously it didn't matter, but, you know, it was just like, I just had her the whole time. And, even when I needed to go shower, my friend that I was talking about, she's like, I'll hold her. So nobody else.
Yeah.
And so my friend got to hold her. And then, I had talked to my mom. I had called her and she was like, do you want me to come? Because she lives in Illinois and we live in Kentucky. So I was like, no, I'm fine. I've always been, you know, the one to leave the nest and not come back. I've been different places in the world and different cities in the United States. So I'm always like, no, I'm not, I'm good. Like, you're fine. But my husband, I did not know, called her and was like, no, like she needs her mom. which I did. I did need my mom. And so she came to the hospital and like stayed the night with me that night. And she got to meet Lila, and I didn't know that was going to happen, but like her name we had picked out prior to knowing my mom was coming. And it just kind of worked out that like, out of the very few people that got to meet her, she was one of them. Yeah. And that was, her namesake. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And good job to your husband for saying, no, you need to come.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, he came in and just said, your mom's coming. And I was like, I told her not to, like, and he was like, I know, I told her to. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you need your mom.
Yes, for sure.
So you guys were able to be with her for 24 hours. Your mom met her, your friend had met her. Obviously your husband and yourself, anybody else, that was able to come to the hospital. Sometimes it's always tricky when you're like, who's going to be okay with this and who's not going to be okay with this. So,
well, the same friend, Mary, she was like, she deserves everything. She deserves everything. There has to be some chaplain or, something to come bless her and blah, blah, blah. And I am not very religious. I would say I'm more spiritual, but in that moment I was like, Mary, you do Mary, like, good, it's fine. Yeah. And so she got a hold of my brother-in-law, who's very active in his church, and somehow figured out how to get them there. So there was like this pastor, my brother-in-law, in the room, while they were doing kind of a blessing. Mm-hmm. And as much as I'm not religious, during that is when I like had this, like, just the weight of it, of her not going to come home with me. And I think I like yelled and, was like, I just want her so bad. Like, I just want her so bad. And it was, when I look back, it was a good thing, that I would have, again, never done. But in that moment, it was just, it was needed, and it was raw, and it may not have been the most, I don't know, like, it just was difficult.
Yeah. Those times are so, and I mean, why would not? I was like, this is, which is totally understandable. This is totally understandable, our reactions to these things. So
for sure.
That is, so you guys were able to have that blessing, or, you're able to have the blessing, and any other things that you were able to do with her, so that, like you said, your friend Mary was able to make sure, like, we're doing all these things.
I did kind of like take the blanket off of her and kind of look at her, and Mary and I were just like, look at her, fingers, look at her toes, look at her nose and her ears. And so I got to take a look at like all of her. And that's when Mary was like, I knew she didn't, that we thought she was a girl. That's, we never really, they never said she was a girl.
Yeah.
We could tell. Yeah. And so, and I think having two boys and then having her and losing her, I think is a little bit harder, because I don't get that girl. Yeah. So in the way that my head was planning that, and how different it might be with that. And so I think it's done kind of a little more.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be hard. And your husband, I know that he kind of is not super great with the medical stuff, which is totally fine. I mean, like, some people are like all into it and others are not. So he's just kind of there, just part of it. I know that you've got your kids too, your two boys. And so just not sure where everybody's at or how they're all able to participate.
Yeah. Well, he came, you know, up there right when everything happened
Yeah.
and was there for a while. And then he just needed time and he wanted to go with the boys and stuff. And that's when my friend came. And then he came back a little bit after that, in the evening, because she was born at around 7:30 in the morning. I probably got to the hospital around 8:30.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so she was, you know, it was like the afternoon, late evening.
Yeah.
And my husband came back for just a little bit. And then my mom actually stayed the night with me.
Okay.
And I think that was the right thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he was with the boys. So he, you know, the boys had a familiar kind of routine and stuff. And, you know, I had my mom and it was,
yeah, that's good. That sounds like a really good actually arrangement. Cause I'm like, that is hard to figure that out when you have another little person, and you're going through loss. And then the next morning, is that when you gave her back to the hospital for the autopsy? Was that around that?
Yeah. So like I said, nobody really came in. I had to like call the call light and I'm just like, how does this work? Like, you know, they had a cuddle cot that they did bring in. But I just held her for most of the time. Yeah. So she's so tiny that she was very different looking from the time that in the morning to the next morning. And I kind of just knew like, this is the time, you know, and my husband was like, what's the plan? You know, he's texting, what's the plan? The boys are asking about you. I just felt very like torn, like knowing that this is like the last time that I'm going to see her. And they just kind of said, it's kind of up to you, like whatever you want. They never gave me any time frame or anything like that. And just with her body, you know, decomposing like that, I just felt like I told them like at shift change, I think that's a good transition of, you know, when you guys are done, then we kind of like get all of this stuff. Like I wanted my discharge instructions ready.
Yes.
So when she left, I left because I didn't want to be in that room without her. And so they did get like the discharge and stuff. But what was weird is like, I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like, how do I, like, am I off on maternity leave? Am I like, you know, like all of this stuff? And they were just like, you can go back to work, I guess. And I was like, there was none like that said what to do medically. They didn't, it was just very, I just felt like unfinished. Like,
yeah.
And they were just, all I know is that they were like, you need to call your OB to get a follow-up appointment. And so I was like, okay, like, I guess that's what I do. You know, like there wasn't this, like what you do next. It was just one call that I had to do to get the rest of this moving.
Which is so, I mean, if you've ever had a baby and you've been discharged, you're like, oh, look, here's a packet of, you know, it's like 30 pages of things you're supposed to do. And they give you like peri bottles and all of these things. And it's like you're going home with luggage, it feels like, of all the stuff. And for you to be like, okay, you can leave, kind of, it
felt awful. Like I'm not leaving with a baby, but I'm also like a patient. Like it just didn't, I just felt like there were so many questions, but I just wanted to get out of there. So I just was like, I will figure it out, I guess. And they said, you know, you need to call your OB and then you need to call the funeral home. Those are kind of the two instructions that I remember getting. And so, you know, I get the discharge instructions. They're all ready. And so I sign everything and then like I have to say goodbye. And that was really hard. It was so hard to say goodbye, knowing that that's it. And knowing that I won't see her again. And the nurse did, like say, like she held her out of the room, and she was like, and I will take her myself to autopsy or whatever. And so at least I felt like she wasn't going on like a gurney or like anything like that. Somebody at least had her.
Was taking her.
Yeah. So then she takes Lila out, and then I'm like, okay, like I'm ready. Just my mom's here. She's taking me home. And they were like, well, you can't go out without a wheelchair. And I was like, no, I have, like, I can't be in here. And they would not allow me to go without a wheelchair. And then it took forever, I felt like, to get a darn wheelchair to get me out of there. And then that's when they gave me the box that was not opened. And then that was a whole nother, like, I'm in the wheelchair. They give me the box. They give me this like little like package of, I mean, it looked like a present. And that's where I didn't know they did the molds. I didn't know they did any of that. It was all in this like in package. Yeah, I didn't. There was like the box that wasn't open, and then like kind of a gift bag with stuff in it. And I did not know they made like little keychains with their feet on them. They had like a USB drive with all of the photos, but like I didn't know anything. And when I got home, I wasn't ready to go through that. Mm-hmm. What's funny is Niall thought it was a present, and so he went through it first when we got home, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're ready. And so then that, sparked a lot of conversations early on than what I was maybe ready for. But yeah, they gave me the box, gave me the bag, and then wheeled me out. And we go straight through like the triage area. We go to and like there's these people that are in the waiting room, waiting for the joyous birth or whatever. And I just lost it again. Like I just was crying the whole time all the way out. And then, I got to my mom's car, and then, like I said, it's only 10 minutes, and came back to the house.
Yeah. Oh, leaving the hospital is like the worst. I feel like giving your baby to them and then leaving the hospital without the baby. And you're just like, this is not fair. It's just not fair.
It's it feels so wrong.
Yeah. And then you're kind of like assaulted by all these like people waiting and pregnant people and babies crying. And you're like, this is so not fair. So
yeah. And and I forgot, like I am O negative. And so I have to get a RhoGAM shot. And we had to wait. That was actually in the triage room before we left to like go home before she was born. And we had to wait forever to get the RhoGAM shot. And that was when all of the monitors, you could hear it all. And I finally was just like, okay, you're going to have to get this, or I'm coming back, and I know it's 72 hours or whatever that you need it. And I just will get it. But they finally did. But I feel like there's just that disconnect of how that flow should go and how that, like, I don't know, like it just could be better.
Yes, that is an understatement right there. So you guys get home, and I am curious how long I know that autopsies generally take a number of months to get taken care of, but they do the autopsy and then the results take a while to analyze and all that stuff. So did you end up meeting her at the funeral home, or what were the arrangements there for her body after the autopsy?
Yeah, the autopsy didn't take very long. So when I got home, we called the funeral home, and the funeral director, like one of the people in my story, again, he's in that realm for a reason, and he has been numerous times have been kind of an angel on how he does stuff. And so we would, like, I called him, and he was like, yep, we know about Lila, and like called her by her name. And every time he calls her by her name. And I don't think people understand how much that means to us.
Yeah.
of like when you actually call her name. And so he was like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to cremate? Do you want to bury? And I was like, oh God, like that's when that happened. So that was the time.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know any, and I guess like I went to like burial, and he was like, okay, well, let me know which cemetery. Once you figure that out, then we'll be able to do that. And I'm like,
oh,
okay. So then I'm like trying to call a cemetery, which how do you ask for that or whatever? And then they start talking about your plots and your kids' plots and whatever plots. And then I finally just was like, I just hung up on them. I was like, I don't think I can make those decisions right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. And so I just like started crying, went to my room, and my friend Mary went through like the yellow pages or whatever she did. And she wrote down like 6 or 7 cemeteries, how much it cost, what the process was, like all of this stuff, and like had it for me when I was ready. And then every time I just kept calling them, it was just like awful. And then I finally like looked at my husband and I said, how do you feel about cremation? I was like, I don't know if I feel like I want to go to a cemetery. I don't know if we're always going to be here. Like, and then we just like looked at each other and it just clicked. I was like, yes, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And we called up the funeral director and he was like, okay, that we have our own crematory, all that stuff. And he called us at every like time frame. Like, I'm going to pick up Lila from the hospital. I just got Lila from the hospital. She's going to the crematory. She's back from the crematoria. You can pick her up like every single time he would call us.
Oh my gosh.
For every single, like wherever she was at. And so I know that like on your podcast, people are like, you don't know where they go or whatever. And like, I felt like I actually knew where she was at. And he, was like, I personally took her here and did whatever. And I don't know if he does that for everybody, but it was so nice.
Yeah. Lila was taken care of. Like, that's what it's like. It just feels like he really cared. And he probably was like, if this was my baby, then I would want to know where she was at. Like, I don't know. It just seems like he really took good care
he really
of her.
cared. And when we went there for the first time to kind of go over like all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, like when we left, like my husband and I looked at each other and I was like, this is really weird, but like this is the first peace I felt since everything happened. Like I feel more at peace than I did ever. And I just got out of a funeral home. Like why? But I really think it was like he saw her, he saw us, he took our time. He was the one, it was always like, is it a stillborn? Is it a, miscarriage? Is it a whatever? That was never anything that, it was my daughter and that's all he, cared about. So
it was just really wonderful.
Yeah, he was.
So you guys did decide to cremate her, and were you able to? Did you guys have a little service, or did you pick her up, and what did you guys do with?
My husband actually picked her up, and he said that he went on like a little walk with her before he came back, and she's in a little.
There she is. Yeah, in a little urn. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful box.
We had discussed with the funeral director of like, can we do a memorial after whatever? And he was like, whenever, you feel that you're ready or whatnot. And that made me feel better because it was like the other thing is a week from now, from the time that she was born, we had that birthday party.
Yeah, exactly.
To go through. And it just felt like, I don't know how to do this or whatnot. And so later on that year, so when her due date was, which was June 25th, we had a memorial for her that day. And so we had a memorial, we had it outside at a park. And my friend Mary, she wrote a song for Lila, and it was sung at the memorial, and it was beautiful. I spoke, and I think that it felt like a good closure. Because up until that point, I didn't feel that. I felt like I didn't give her what she deserved. And that nobody knows her. And so it felt good to have something for her.
Yeah. Almost like a baby shower, right? Those are those things that we look forward to celebrate those times. And it would feel kind of undone, I guess.
Yeah.
So Joy, I'm assuming that months later you did get the autopsy. So did you guys, what was the result of that? Or did you have any sort of conclusive results?
So they did say that she had high drops, which when researching all of that, there's a lot of substantial things if they would have gone further in the pregnancy. A lot of complications usually with that, and a very high mortality rate as well. And so, but the cause, they don't know exactly. There was a clot in her umbilical cord, but it didn't say that's what
conclusively
caused it or anything like that. And really, there was no kind of
anything
to answers. Yeah. But for me, I know that if I would have had that 20-week scan, I would have had a lot of difficult decisions to make, because they would have seen the high drops and we would have had to go down a very difficult road. And so for me, I believe that Lila took that from me, so I didn't have to make that decision. Because I don't think I just think about that. And so I just think that she just was there and didn't want me to have to do that.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because it would have been 1 week further that
you would have been.
I would have been told that. I mean, they saw it on the ultrasound when they couldn't find the heartbeat. So they would have seen it on the ultrasound for my 20-week.
Yeah. Wow, that is. Just think of. Yeah. I think if that's how you feel about it, I think that's kind of cool that she is taking care of you. Joy, this has been really just a wonderful conversation. A little crazy, obviously. But also felt like we got to know her. We got to know Lila and all the people that loved her. There were so many people that loved on her and cared for her. So thank you so much. Before I'd like to ask, is there anything else that you would like to share about her that we may have missed? I want to make sure that we get all the things.
I feel like when, my son and I are talking about her, that the way we found out about her and the way that she left was crazy and, surprising. And so I just feel that if she would have been able to be in this life with us, that she would have been like that. She would have been a firecracker and
a little surprising, a little crazy.
And she would have been, a perfect match for our family. Yeah. So I always think of that, and that's kind of how I think of her.
That is perfect, and I just love that. Kind of coming with a bang.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Joy, thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me and I think this will definitely help on my journey of healing.
I'm glad.